Today is Tuesday, April 21st. This is the video lesson that goes along with Venus crossing the Sun. So if you're watching this lesson, you should have already watched the Mercury and Venus brain pops. You can take the quizzes and look at the other articles and fun things on there if you'd like. You've added information to your T-chart, so both your Mercury and Venus slots should be pretty well filled in at this point. And you've either opened up the video link on readworks.org, or you're using the images on the computer, and you're going to read Venus Crosses the Sun. It's quite a few pages, but really there's not much reading that goes along with it. There's a lot of really big graphic organizers. And then your last assignment today is to work on your notes and your question. So for this part, it's going to take us about 10 minutes to read. We're going to read it together, and then we'll begin your notes, but it's going to be up to you to finish those independently. So I'm going to turn to our reading packet. Last time we looked at what you already know about the planets. We read an article on inner planets. We added to our chart. Now we didn't answer this question in your journal, so I want you to take a moment. If you need to stop your video while you're thinking, please do so. But you do need to know the order of the planets, and there's some really good mnemonics over here. So if you look on the side, this is one mnemonic that a lot of people use. My very educated mother just served us noodles. And of course, a mnemonic is when you use the first letter of each of the items in the list and you create a sentence using those words. So I'd like you to develop your own mnemonic, and you can be pretty creative with it to remember the order of the planets. So using the list over here, go ahead and stop your video and create your own funny mnemonic here. All right, so for our reading today, our language arts integration, we're going to read the article, How Long is One Day? And you can listen to the article or read it with me. Well, read it with me, definitely for sure, but you can also listen to it if you'd like. And the questions online have all the images in color, which is really nice. The question that we're going to use to guide our reading today is, how is Venus transit similar to and different from the lunar and solar eclipses that we learned about in week 4? So kind of think back on everything we learned about eclipses. Then we're going to read and highlight like we normally do, looking at our text features before, highlighting key facts and details, writing things in the margins, and then when we're done, we're going to answer our question. And our standard that we're focusing on, other than understanding the composition and the different features of Venus, and that's our science standard. Our ELA standard is that I can analyze the text based on the information and or the structure of the text. And the structure means how it's written, the order it's written in, and it can also mean your text features. So how did they structure it? Did they use a graph? Did they use a chart? Did they use a diagram? And this is a pretty hard standard. It's one we haven't used very much. And this highest level they're wanting you to do is to analyze or evaluate, really think critically about it. All right, so we're going to start. And it says, Venus crosses the Sun. So as we always do, we're going to start by looking at our text features, and I'm going to get my highlighter out. So what text features do you see on the first page? All right, you should have said title. There's also this one. What is this one called? Subtitle. Astronomers love eclipses, and this has been a great year for them. And then there's one more. Now this one you could say it's an image. You might also say it's a caption. Caution! Exclamation point. Never look directly at the sun, even for a second. It will damage your eyesight forever. To view a solar eclipse, use special solar viewing glasses and get them from a camera store or online. Welding goggles will also work. Sunglasses do not work even if you stack many of them together. Page number 9. We have another text feature too. What do we call this thing? We have a diagram. And then what do we call this text feature? A caption. When the moon passes between us and the sun, we call it a solar eclipse. It is the sun that is being eclipsed, meaning hidden or blocked from sight. And we have our diagram of the sun and the moon and the earth, with the moon passing between the two, creating a shadow on the sun. Flip to your next page. All right, there's 3 text features here. All right, what's this one called? Diagram. Lunar eclipse. The sun, earth, and moon line up with the earth in the middle. Sun, earth, and moon. When the earth passes, well, now what's this one called again? Yeah, caption. When the earth passes right between the sun and moon, we get a lunar eclipse. The earth passes a shadow over the moon. Lunar. All right, and then we have this one as well. What's this one called? A subtitle. How often can we see a Venus transit? Our last text feature is on this page. And what do we call this one? Well, a picture with words, so we'd call it a diagram. And it says ecliptic 2012, ecliptic 2014, transit of Venus 2004, transit of Venus 2012. All right, so before we get going, what genre are we reading? What type of passage is this? Is this fiction or nonfiction? The genre is going to be nonfiction, meaning real, not fake. And we might call this an expository text or an informational text. All right, read it with me or pause and you can read it on your own, or you can click the video and open the video and listen to it online. An eclipse happens when one object in space gets right in front of another object in space. Seeing that happen is awesome, and it is a chance to learn more about one or both of the objects. Depending on what gets in front of what, we have different names for the eclipse. What do you think was the most important sentence in both of those paragraphs? Definitely our definition right here. This is what our whole article is going to be about. To form an eclipse, the two objects and the observer must be located along a straight line. These are the most notable eclipses we see on Earth. During a solar eclipse, daylight gets dimmed for a few minutes and then returns to normal. During a lunar eclipse, the moon may look like an orange ball. We can still see it because it reflects some sunlight that has grazed the Earth's atmosphere, becoming reddened and scattered by the atmosphere as if at sunset. There is one other very rare eclipse that we can also see happening before our very shielded eyes. That one is called a Venus transit. The Venus orbits closer to the sun than the Earth does. Sometimes Venus passes between the Earth and the sun. When things are lined up just right, we can see Venus as a small black dot moving across the face of the sun. All right. So I think we kind of have three main ideas. Let's see if you can find them. All right, so our first one is the definition of eclipse. Objects have to be in a straight line. That's pretty important. That's something that happens for all eclipses. Then we also have two types of eclipses. We have our solar eclipse and our lunar eclipse. The last one is what the rest of the article is going to be about. There's a very rare eclipse called a Venus transit. And we can see Venus as a small black dot moving across the face of the sun. How often can we see a Venus transit? Well, the answer is not very often. If you are more than 8 years old, you've been very lucky because there have already been 2 Venus transits during your life. One occurred on June 5th and 6th, 2012, and the previous one on June 2004. So not too much hugely important here, but maybe the fact that there's been 2 in recent history. After 2012, the next one's not going to occur until 2017. So we just had one a couple of years ago. You'll have to wait until way past your 100th birthday to see the next one. So if you missed the one in 2017, you're going to have to wait almost 100 years. All right. And that was the end of our article. I told you they're really, really short. So we're going to look at our questions. And our first question, I can analyze the text based on information or its structure. Explain 2 reasons the author decided to include the text feature on page 8. And the text feature on page 8 is this one. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do my DWB. We need to explain 2 reasons they included a text feature. And I'm going to make my 2 bulleted list. Now I'm not going to answer this one for you. You can pause your tape if you need to fill in your chart, and then remember, you're going to use your ERQ strategies to go ahead and write out your answers. The last one. Your standard you're looking at is I can compare and contrast text features. Find their similarities and differences. Compare and contrast. The text features on page 9 and 10. Including at least 1 similarity and 1 difference. Now real quick before we move, and you can pause your video to come back and be able to fill in your chart, but our 2 text features are the text feature showing the solar eclipse and the text feature showing the lunar eclipse. So what is one thing that is similar about these text features, and what is one thing that is different? If you need to at this point, pause the video so you can fill in your chart and answer your questions. And that's it for our learning for today. I'll see you next time.